with the first pick.
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. Today we are going to be jumping straight into a Dynasty Mock Draft. It's going to be Superflex, PPR. You know who's here. We got Mason, Beck, and Lee Cook, and we got a special guest with us today, Kyle Brady. Brady?
That's right.
Brady. Kyle Brady. All right. So, I mean, every time we do a mock draft, we're getting cut off short. So we are jumping straight into this, boys. We are not wasting a second. Let's get this thing rolling. We got Lee in the 3 spot, Mason in the 4, Kyle in the 7th, and me in the 10th. We'll walk you through some of these picks as we're making them. But first 3 off the board, we got Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and then Lee kicks off the first human pick with Jalen Hurts. I love it. We were just talking right before the show started. I was surprised to see C.J. Stroud above Jalen Hurts right now. That is absolutely crazy to me. Lee, talk us through your pick.
Yes, I mean, it's the lack of the rushing upside. We've seen it from Stroud for 1 year, but we know how broken fantasy scoring is. I mean, to be that consistent top 5 quarterback, I mean, 35 passing touchdowns a season is kind of the floor there. The rushing upside, I don't think, even with Kelsey retiring, Saquon coming in, we might see a little drop in those rushing touchdowns, but I don't see them, dropping off in a huge manner. Still got a great offensive line, a really good offense he's in. Like I said, I love Stroud, but I think people are kind of they've gone overboard. Again, the lack of rushing upside is a big concern with fantasy until the scoring gets fixed.
Right. So do you guys, I hear like Jason from the Fantasy Footballers talk about changing quarterback yards, like the points that you get off of that, to be all the same. So if a quarterback rushed for 25 yards, it would be 1 point instead of, 1 point every 10 yards. Is that something that you could get behind, Lee?
I don't think so. And
I
like
think that's overcorrecting.
I think it's overcorrecting, and ultimately then you're giving, so much more credit or so much less credit for a rushing yard to a quarterback than you are a running back. To me, I mean, the easiest, simplest thing is 6-point touchdowns. That doesn't completely fix it, but I think having all touchdowns equal the same amount is a good step in that direction. I would even say versus changing the rushing, to me, maybe you lower that threshold for passing yards. Maybe you drop that down instead of 25 yards per point to maybe 10 is probably too much because of the passing nature of the league, but maybe 15 to 20
right,
to give a little more credit for those passing yards as well.
Right, that'd be crazy. If it was 10 per, that you get 40 points for a 400 passing yard day, that alone.
I'm actually in a league where it's 0.10 per passing yard as well. It is only a 1 QB league, which in 1 QB leagues I'm fine with because it does kind of bring up the QB value kind of to that super flex value. So I'm okay with it in 1 QB leagues. But if you have that in super flex leagues, like Mahomes is literally the most overpriced person ever. Like, not overpriced, but, the highest price.
Right. Worth the value at 101 in a single QB league. Yeah. I'd be interested in something like that. We are starting up a Dynasty League. We are 1 player away from closing that. Mason, any update on that? Not to do this on the pod, but is he coming soon? Because I need a draft.
Evan's sister. So Evan's sister can beat Evan.
I did not even know that. Yeah, she's
in
Italy. Yeah, she's on a honeymoon right now. So,
well, you know what? Speed this love thing along. We got a draft to do, Megan.
All right, I'm taking listening.
I mean, you only took 6 minutes to make your first pick, Mason.
Yeah, 104, taking 6 minutes. He does go Stroud over Lamar Jackson, over Joe Burrow. Talk us through that a little bit.
I just think Lamar, obviously Lamar is a great quarterback for the next couple of years, but we see a trend where those legs do start to give out, and that rushing upside will fade away a little bit. Obviously, he is proven that he can pass the ball, but his insane fantasy weeks are from his rushing upside. That will probably fade at some point. So as far as dynasty goes, I think Stroud is the better one. Joe Burrow, obviously, a lot of injury concerns. I mean, has he only played one full season, maybe two? I mean, that's just kind of the risk there. Burrow is he's super talented, but I don't know. I just like Stroud. The Texans are committed to him. They brought in Diggs. They brought in Mixon. They're ready for the offense to really explode next year. I think that shows a lot that an organization truly 100% believes in their quarterback. And I think he is going to be the franchise guy he's going to be a good starting quarterback, I think, for minimum the next 12 years.
Okay. So I'm curious, guys, and we won't talk about a ton of the computer, picks, but jumps out to the next two computer picks. CeeDee Lamb goes above Justin Jefferson. And I feel like that's just recently changed. That was not the auto pick or the standard rating just a couple of weeks ago when we did a startup. Would any of you guys take CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson right now?
Not in Dynasty. In redraft, yes, but not in Dynasty, personally. What do you think about that?
Not with the quarterback situation in Dallas. They don't know about Dak the next year or so, and since they're tied together and have success, it's hard to see the same success without Dak.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people are taking him, because he does have Dak, not looking at the big picture of how long Dak will be there. Obviously, we got a question mark in Minnesota. None of us really love JJ here. Mason loves Sam Darnold, but I mean,
it's just I love Sam Darnold.
I think Justin Jefferson's quarterback proof, and with his age, the proven productivity, to me, he's still clearly the number one wide receiver. And I mean, I took him in my startup at the 5 slot. So we'll see how it progresses.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lamb could be the better redraft pick, just because the 1 year with Dak is guaranteed. Dak's going to be his quarterback. JJ, if he does prove us all wrong and is a good quarterback, it still might take a year to fully develop. But dynasty-wise, Jefferson is just – the talent is just far above anybody else. If you look at the numbers he put up, he had the injury, so obviously he wasn't a top 12 wide receiver. But if you look at the weeks that he was healthy, it's what you wanted him to do. So I see at least 3-4 more years out of that for Jefferson. So I don't know in dynasty how you could take Lamb over him.
Something my son, who's really into Madden and into football these days, brings up, and I hope you're listening, JC. The Eagles. Imagine the Eagles if they take Justin Jefferson and not Jalen Reagor that year.
Oh my God, that's insane. Honestly, they probably don't trade for AJ Brown, but they do have Justin Jefferson on a rookie deal for 5 years rather than giving AJ Brown the bag off the bat. All right, so we got Kyle up with the next pick here. Kyle, who you taking?
Is it going to be 4 points for touchdowns or 6 points for passing touchdowns in this league?
Do we want to say what we're doing our league off of, boys? It's 6 point in our league that we're setting up right now.
Yeah, we'll say
6 point.
Well, okay, then that will sway me to take Joe Burrow right here.
I like it.
Was that between Lamar and Joe Burrow for your pick? You're saying
both 27. Both kind of have injury history, but I think I take Burrow with the less injury prone with running. I know it's a great cheat code in fantasy to have those rushing yards, and he's had phenomenal seasons, 2 MVP seasons. I just like Joe Burrow throwing the ball and the amount of touchdowns he could score.
Yeah. I hear you. And like Lamar, 2 out of the 3 past seasons, he's only played 12 games. So, it's been a problem in his career. I do think that the rushing upside still trumps the 6 point per passing touchdown for me. But, both of them are neck and neck, and Joe Burrow is still super young and absolutely set up. One of the things I was going to touch on earlier, but I didn't want to take away from Kyle's pick in case he was taking them. But I personally am taking Jamar Chase above Jefferson and Lamb. And I had Chase as my wide receiver 1 last year because of the QB situation.
Mm-hmm.
We knew Kirk Cousins was old. We knew there's a possibility he'd be leaving. That ended up being the case. Justin Jefferson is now with a rookie quarterback, and we were already touching on it, but Dak, it does not have a secure future at all. So I liked Chase last year as my wide receiver 1. I think I was the only one at the time. We only had 3. It was just me, Mason, and Evan. And I think I was the only one to list them as the wide receiver 1. Curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. Mason, it looked like you had something to add.
Well, you know who my wide receiver 1 is.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, and the CPU drafted him at the 112, and that is amazing. I would always take that any day at the 112.
I just don't. I can see an argument for Amon-Ra or Chase at 2. I think Justin Jefferson is just so clearly the best wide receiver. I get the quarterback situation, and both of those guys are more secure. But give me all the Justin Jefferson. I think he's head and shoulder. I won't say head and shoulders, but I think he's a more talented individual. And I just think he's by far the best receiver in football right now.
He is.
I could see an argument for Lamb falling to 4 there. I don't mind Chase and Amon-Ra over Lamb.
I agree. Yeah, I like Justin Jefferson. We've seen him do it before. He's proven himself even with Josh Dobbs. And then, like you say, Jamar Chase right behind him because he's tied to Burrow. They've had already several years together in college and the pros. And then I agree, Lamb would be behind those 2.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, then Lamb. Because him and Goff will be tied together for a while.
Yeah, and to your point, Kyle, like when Justin Jefferson returned from his injury, he had one game where he was under 20% snaps, just getting back into the mix of things. From that point on, 96 or 93% of snaps and above, and in those games, end up scoring 15 point. Oh, hold on, those were the projections. Okay, he ended up scoring 15.4, 26.1, and 10.9 and 36 points in full PPR, and that was with Nick Mullins or Joshua Dobbs at the helm. So we can get it done with JJ. He's going to get peppered with targets, but I do think that overall, personally for me, I'll take the security in the quarterback with Chase and Burrow. We got Kyle up for his second pick. What are we taking here at the 206?
Okay,
I know where he's going. I know where he's going.
I think he knows it's time for love.
No, that's not where I thought he was going.
No.
That is not where I thought either.
Man.
Crazy how much he has jumped.
Puka was right there. I like to get the two nice quarterbacks to start with Superflex. Just seems such a good foundation to build off of. Then they start disappearing, and I have remorse for not getting the quarterback. So I'm big in Jordan Love, especially for Dynasty. I can see him playing in Green Bay next several years with LaFleur. Seems like a great offensive connection.
I think I'd take Justin Herbert over Jordan Love there.
I agree. The situation's worse for Herbert, but I just can't. Herbert's, in my opinion, a top 8 quarterback in terms of talent. So it's hard for me to pass on. And I would say more likely towards top 5 than top 8.
I just think it's the 1 year.
He is 1 year younger.
Yeah.
And just the Greg Roman offense, the run first. We still know that he's going to throw because his rookie year he was able to scramble and throw and make a lot of plays downfield, but it's going to hurt without Keenan Allen, Mike Williams there.
Yeah, I get it. I think there's an argument both ways. I've seen it a little more from Herbert.
I agree.
But Love certainly has, especially in redraft, I would absolutely smash Love over Herbert. But we'll see how – I mean, he's got some really good talent around him. We'll see how that progresses. I think I saw a stat. I believe that they were like bottom 3 in money they have tied to wide receivers right now. So, those situations can change real quick. I don't think any of those guys have earned a payday yet. We'll see what happens there. But, I mean, having that much young talent, it's not really great for owning any of those guys, but it is great for owning Love.
And it may be a more recency bias pick as well.
All right, Mason's up. What do you got here?
All right. I'm right before Lee, so I'm kind of thinking, who does he want so I could take it from him? But also who I would take here, I'm going to take Puka. I mean, just rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. I mean, there's not much of an argument against him. Getting him in the late second, always happy with that. Obviously, it was just 1 year, But if he does it again next year, he could honestly be in that argument of a first-round pick in dynasty startup drafts. And so just getting him in the second, whether or not you want to keep him going forward, you definitely can get a lot of value off of him. And I think that is there for sure with Stafford still being the quarterback. It really is hard to argue against taking Puka and, what am I, 208 or am I 209? 209. 209, it's hard to, argue against taking Puka there.
Well, Mason loves that he knows because I just picked Puka in the second round of the real draft we just did. So that's okay. I said I'd be a little more upset if this was our league our show league that we're starting up. But I think in this situation, it's kind of tough for me. I could go a few different directions, but I'm gonna go quarterback stack as well. I'm gonna add Kyler Murray to Jalen Hurts, and it's kind of what I saw coming with the computer pick. So it's back around to me, and I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Mason strategy.
Oh, interesting.
Hey,
All
man,
right,
my four QB picks in that startup draft through what was it, like the 7th? I took 3 QBs in the first 3 rounds, and I took Baker in like the 8th or 9th, something like that.
So
Bold strategy for sure. I think I love Kyler going this early in the draft because last year I talked about it so much. Kyler Murray was going in the 4th round. I get he was coming off the ACL, but he's still incredibly young, had shown nothing but fantasy success at least. And we knew that the Cardinals are going to be terrible. So at this point last year, I was like, they could get Marvin Harrison Jr. next year. I said with the 101. End up getting him anyways, despite their draft capital, and couldn't be happier to see his value continuing to increase. Then you go with the homer pick. You got to get Jaden Daniels on the team. I do love seeing it. What do you think is coming for his year 1 success? Like year 1, I get the dynasty upside, but
I think 800 yards rushing and 10 rushing touchdowns is a very realistic goal on the rushing side with maybe another 3,000 passing yards and 24, 25 passing touchdowns, which if you put those numbers together, he's clearly a top 10 quarterback. It's a little insurance for Kyler Murray, being a teeny tiny little guy who gets hurt some. It is a little bit of a homer pick, but I also wanted to try out the 3 quarterback build here. And I do want to mention it, see what Kyle and Dan, I posed this in our group chat, Dan, and what the listeners think. Feel free to comment which side you would go because we've mentioned it a couple of times. So just real quick, Mason and I, we did a real startup draft, a real one, 4 points per passing touchdown. We went opposite directions. He went quarterback with the first 3 picks. I went wide receiver. So just to kind of give you our top 6 guys, Mason had the 101. He's got Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy. Michael Pittman, Rome Odunze, and Jordan Addison are his top 3 receivers. It's a solid start for sure. I have Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Drake London at wide receiver, with Will Levis as my quarterback 2, Jared Goff as my quarterback 1, and then I also got Drake May as the quarterback 3. A little bit more risky strategy on the quarterbacks, but when you go wide receiver with your first 3 picks, you're kind of going to be stuck in a situation. So, and I kind of knowing Kyle, I think I know where he's going to lean, but where would you lean, Dan? And then we'll go to Kyle. Which side would you rather have him start up at?
You're right. You hit us up in the group chat, and I didn't get to respond to it yet. I do lean towards your team. I will take the riskier upside, or the guaranteed upside with the wide receivers, a little bit riskier at quarterback. But, you got Jared Goff in that. I was not a big Will Levis fan pre-draft, but that was also kind of tied in with what the perceived area he was going to be drafted in. Definitely did not think that he was a first-round guy. But even as the first pick of the second round, I can see that a little bit more. I think that the arm talent's there. He's athletic enough to extend plays at least. He's not going to get a ton on the ground, which is great for fantasy. But he takes shots downfield, and the Titans actually surrounded him with talent this year. When you have Treylon Burks, who has definitely been a big disappointment, when you have him as your 4th wide receiver on the team, you're doing something good. And on top of it, Okonkwo, ton of athletic talent there at tight end, even though he's kind of unproven. 2 pass catchers out of the backfield, and then add 3 more vets as the top 3 wide receivers on the team. I think he's set up for success. So I do slightly favor your squad, but I do think that Mason's team is much safer for the long term.
I'm in it for year 2. Year 1, year 2, I'm in it. Trust.
What do you think?
I mean, there's a whole lot of roster left that wasn't listed, and we don't got.
I don't have any running backs in that.
No running backs, no tight ends for him. That's where I really separate myself. But what do you think on those top 6?
I like Lee's pick with Goff later on like that. He's been inside the top 12 maybe twice in his career.
Past 2 years
finish. So that he's a pretty good value late like that.
Yeah.
I think Goff is the most underrated quarterback in Dynasty right now.
Now that he's got the bag, I don't know if he's still going to be quite as underrated. But I agree with you that he's a guy that you can get later in drafts. It'll be interesting to see where he goes here in this draft. Speaking of, we are 23 minutes in, and we are on the 304. Mason, what do you got here for your next pick?
Well, before I take my pick, do you guys know who I think is my most underrated quarterback?
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, good job. All right, so I'm going to take the homer pick here.
Like you do a podcast together or something.
And do Brock Purdy, the 304. T-Law was still there. I was thinking that, but as a Niner fan, I truly got to believe in Brock Purdy. Got to back it up. Take him in as many fantasy leagues as I can. I mean, I think he was QB 6, 7, something like that last year.
He was 6, Goff was 7.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's at least got one more year of doing that. If the wide receiver room does change in the next couple of years, maybe he falls back a couple spots just because he doesn't have as much help around him. But still, Brock Purdy's shown a lot. He's proven that just the greatest story ever. Last pick in the draft. Now being the 3rd round pick in Dynasty startups, it's just.
Hold on, you're a Brady guy, and you say he's the greatest story ever. You got a 6th round quarterback that won 7 rings. Let's let him win a little bit more in the big.
When Purdy wins 8, you will change your opinion.
8. How about 1 first, Mason? I mean, the hole in your wall.
If Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, yes, we will win a Super Bowl.
All right, Kyle, what you got up for 307? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were talking, but what are you thinking here? 307. Got Burrow and Love to kick it off.
I'm thinking I want to get a receiver right here. I feel like the running backs are a little too high priced right here. I'm gonna go Drake London.
Yeah,
I
he
like
is
it.
set up long term, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix Jr. For the next 4 to 5 years, he is going to have a reliable quarterback throwing him the ball.
He's 22. Yeah, like you say, Kirk Cousins is proven he can do it, and Penix has a strong arm to get the ball down the field. And London seems to be on the Falcons the next 3 years.
And
Yes,
they have
sir.
no other wide receivers as well. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Sorry, Atlanta fans, but I mean it's Drake and Pitts. I mean, I'm sorry for all our Rondell truthers out there. He's a gadget guy. I don't really believe in Darnell Mooney. He may end up being a solid second, but that's a pretty bare room after Drake.
Yeah.
Don't-
No, it is
don't
pretty
talk about
barren. I'm not a
Rondell.
big Rondale guy myself. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is there, which helps a lot, but just having two guys that you can really rely on is not what you want from your dynasty quarterback. I end up going Trevor Lawrence at 310. We didn't talk about it last time, but I took Marvin Harrison at the 203. So right now I'm sitting with Lamar Jackson, Marvin Harrison, Trevor Lawrence. Kyle's got Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Drake London. Mason has CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, and Puka Nakua. And then Lee's testing it out like you should do in mock drafts. If you don't already know and you're listening to this, take some wild strategies in your mocks. You don't have to do everything cookie cutter the same thing every single time. You're not going to learn anything that way. Go out there and see what you got, see where people will land if you switch things up. But with Trevor Lawrence falling to the 310, still incredibly young. Dude is just 24 years old. He's got 3 solid wide receivers. I would say, Brian Thomas, there's the hope. Christian Kirk, more suited as a 2 than a 1. And then Gabe Davis, fantastic 3, but don't really want him as your 2. But when you mix that all in with a pass catcher in Travis Etienne and Evan Ingram, that he's got options there. I do think he'll bounce back from last season. And that'll move us on to the next pick here. It's honestly, I do think that Saquon for the next year or 2 will end up scoring more points than the person I'm going to take. But this is a 3 wide receiver league. There's 3 flex spots. And then from there on, it's just, your normal super flex league, 2 QBs, 2 running backs, 1 tight end. With that many wide receivers, I'm going Devonta Smith. He got a bag. He's got Jalen Hurts. I like Anthony Richardson a lot. Or I like Michael Pittman, and therefore, Anthony Richardson. However, I'm still not as sold on Richardson as a passer in comparison to Hurts. So I will take Smith here. Moving us on to Kyle's 4th round pick. What are you thinking?
Is it tight end premium or just standard scoring
No
for tight
premium
end?
in this one.
Standard.
Ugh. I'm not crazy about my options right here, but I'm going to go with Michael Pittman.
I think you got 2 styled wide receivers that are very similar in each other and very much what the NFL, for years at least, has been focused on as the true X type wide receiver. Both guys can get it done at any point on the field. They have success across all routes. And, I was just saying that I'm not as confident in Richardson in comparison to Hurts. Not saying I'm not confident in Richardson, though. I think that he's got the athletic ability and the smarts. The dude seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders and works hard. I think he's going to continue to improve as a passer. Pittman got the bag, so I think that's a great pick there.
Yeah, I was thinking DJ Moore, but he has so much competition in Chicago now.
Yep.
And he's more of a boom bust each game. He doesn't score consistent points. I'd say maybe Pittman would have a higher floor.
I would agree. I'd say Pittman's definitely a higher floor. I'd say DJ Moore is clearly a higher ceiling. You know, I mean, look at the game he had against Washington last year on Thursday Night Football.
Career.
I still have nightmares about that. You know, and I'm not as concerned with Keenan Allen. Rome would be the guy I'd be worried about being the number one guy there, you know, sooner rather than later.
I just got done statting out the Bears too. It's pretty interesting. I'm not going to say anything until you guys get done with your projections, but I'm looking forward to comparing and contrasting here.
All right, so the 409 here, having Stroud, Puka, and Purdy. You know, my team's pretty young, so I'm honestly going to keep it that way. I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid. He could honestly have an amazing year. You know, that's not out of the picture. But just I think, you know, year 3 or 4, Kincaid is going to be you know, it could happen this year, but year 3 or 4, he is going to become one of those top 5 or 6 tight ends. So I'm going to take him here. Keep my team young, you know, build for the future, and I think that's the right pick there.
I like it.
So I'm tempted to take the Mason strategy here, and I mean Tua screams as the highest value on the board right now to me.
Four
But
quarterbacks at the
four
first
quarterbacks in a row. Obviously, can't project trades, and I would very unlikely that I would take 3 in a real draft. I mean, I can't go 4. I think for me, this is a guy who's still young. The contract situation after this year is a little scary. I'm not particularly scared of Stephon Diggs taking away the targets. I think he's going to be the one over Tank, and I think he'll be back on a team-friendly deal to stay with C.J. Stroud. So I'm going to take Nico Collins as my wide receiver 1.
And especially if you guys are watching on the YouTube, you can see the players that are available here. As soon as you said the contract situation, I was like, Nico Collins. And then you said, but I hear you. The talent's there. He is a big boy who moves fast. That's going to be valued. And they decided to void the rest of Stephon Diggs' contract after bringing him in. It's a 1-year deal. I do think that they bring Nico back as well. I don't know if it's going to be team-friendly necessarily. I also do not have Nico as the leading wide receiver on the team. Haven't gotten their projections done yet, so this is just me, you know, thinking about the situation. But I think that Nico Collins is going to be an insanely risky wide receiver 1 for your team. But if it pays off, it's going to pay off big.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's more of a looking at the long picture because I could see it being a little scary this year. I don't, you know, back to me in the 5th round, you know, normally I would be very wide receiver heavy, as the real draft we talked about earlier shows. But as I look at this board, I try to go best available and not just position of need. I don't love running backs this early, but he's a guy that's 23 years old. I'm not particularly scared of Zach Charbonnet at this point. He's the proven one. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be, you know, my best value here.
Yeah. So he goes Kenneth Walker with the 5-3, brings
Kenneth
Mason's
Walker
5.
is not there. I hope you know that.
That is so funny. 411. He did just go off the board.
It
Would
did
you have
update for me.
taken
Good
Kenneth
job,
Walker above
Good
Nico
job.
if you knew Kenneth Walker would have been off the board?
No.
Yeah, the wide receiver position is just so
Why
much
is it
more
not updated?
reliable. All
Mine
right,
is
so
stuck on
who
team
will your
2
pick
Hold
be
on, let
then?
me go out and go back in. It's mine didn't update those picks.
What's up?
My draft didn't update those picks. That's why I was going to take him because it was still showing team 2 with their first pick for some reason.
Okay.
So that definitely changes where I'm going to go. I can't do that. Yeah, I'm going to I'm scared of this quarterback situation. And honestly, if I hadn't have taken Nico where I did, I'd probably take Tank Dell here. But I'm not going to stack 2 receivers in Houston. This is a proven guy. They said, I think Sam Howell is going to show that he's going to be the real quarterback one there. I'm going to go DK Metcalf.
I like it. Still very young as well. So, I mean, not very young, but 26 years old for a guy that's already has 5 years in the league. I think that's a safe pick. And I do think I would personally take Metcalf over Walker in a startup anyways. So I think the bots might have saved yourself.
Maybe.
We'll see. Mason, you're up next.
All right, at 5'4", I'm usually not, like Lee was saying, he's not the same either. I'm not a big early running back guy, but I have honestly, my opinion has changed on him. I'm a lot higher on him now. I'm taking James Cook. I just think he might honestly have an amazing year in the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, they brought in Ray Davis. Frank Gore Jr. was a unsigned free agent. You know, they did bring in some help, but I don't think that's necessarily to take away from Cook. It's that they just had zero depth. So I think that James Cook is set up for a really solid year. And, you know, even the rest of my team is very young. James Cook is 24. So, you know, we see the running back drop off at 28. That's usually a typical age. So if I could get 2-3 good years off of him, maybe trade him out, I'm totally happy with that.
So just a real quick PSA. This is for Mason, but anybody that's listening, if you put a player on the trade block and your opinion changes of said player and you decide you don't want to trade him, take him off the trade block.
Yeah, take him off the trade block, Mason.
Come on, Mason.
What are you doing?
I'm just testing offers, okay? Come on.
You're just trying to bait somebody into making a bad trade on their own?
You know what, Lee? I'm taking him off right now.
There you go. There we go.
I appreciate
Off
that.
the market.
Yeah, he's officially off the market.
We can
You
talk
lost-
about
All right,
Najee later,
boys.
but with the contract situation, it's going to be, you know.
We
Needs to
are
be
at
bargained.
Not even on
5-7.
the trade block, Lee.
You
What
guys.
are you talking about?
You guys, I
I'm ready.
gotta rally us through this.
Okay.
We're at
Oh.
5-7, 37
Right.
minutes deep. Let's start booking, boys.
I'm
We're gonna
going Zay Flowers right here.
Love it.
I love to get young receivers in Dynasty Startup.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
It was either
I'm doing the same thing here. I'm taking Tank Dell out of this wide receiver core. Personally, I have him above Nico. That's just me. But you know, we got a bunch of young guys on this squad. I am going to continue that. I'm taking Jonathan Brooks at the 603. It is going to be rough at my running back position in year one. However, I think that Jonathan Brooks has so much opportunity ahead of him. I'm happy taking him here at 603. Brings us to the 606. We do have some tight end run, a mini tight end run with Kelsey and Andrews going there. Pitch right before McBride, Kincaid, and Bowers in the 4th round, and Laporta in the 3rd. Kyle, what are you thinking here with your next pick?
I see some great looking wide receivers. And I already have 3 wide receivers. And it looks like I'm going to take another one. I'm going to go Xavier Worthy.
Interesting. Okay. As
Tied with
Mason's making his
Mahomes.
next pick, I want to hear what you're thinking for Worthy. You know, Dynasty versus redraft. But what did you like when you saw his college tape?
Well, what I like, he's tied with Patrick Mahomes. He seems to be a receiver that can do a lot of things well. He can separate off the line of scrimmage. He can get open down the field. I know he's smaller, but he seemed to be the best receiver in his on his team with Mitchell.
Yeah.
And if he can take anything like the Tyreek Hill role in Kansas City and they can change up their offense to more down the field shots, he could really pay off big.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just to touch on it really quick. Last year I saw Rashee Rice's reception perception numbers. And they looked god awful. And what I forgot is that Andy Reid is a genius and can scheme anyone open. So if they can get this guy into open space, good luck catching him. That's not going to happen. So I like the pick. I think there's so much upside there. And I think there's still even just like a little bit of, just like a little tint on wide receivers that are going to Kansas City when they had such bad success with it in years prior to Rashee Rice. So I think that he's still being undervalued. I like the pick. Mason, you are made your pick. We got Jordan Addison.
I mean,
I like it.
Crowded target room between Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson. I mean, Aaron Jones this year is going to get some receptions as well, but still long term, I like Addison.
Yeah. Yep. All right,
So I
Lee.
continue to hate you, Mason. A lot of hate
Oh.
coming from me to you. I was definitely taking Addison there. That's okay.
That's why I chose right next to you. I wanted to snipe 2 of your picks at least.
Well, you got one. I feel like this is a pretty tough spot, and I think this comes down to a fundamental choice here. If I'm trying to win this season, and maybe 2 seasons from now, I think Deebo Samuel is the pick. If I'm trying to look more long term, I do have DK Metcalf, 26. I got Nico's 25. I can afford to go either direction here. I think Brian Thomas is probably the pick if I'm looking to just take a shot at a guy. But as I told you guys earlier, we don't know where we're going to be 3 years from now. A meteor could hit the earth and we could all be dead by then. So I'm going to take Deebo Samuel and try to win that.
I like it.
I did love when you said that into the chat earlier. Okay, valid point.
Hey. So back to me. I've got Deebo, DK Metcalf, and Nico Collins as my top 3 receivers after going quarterback. I don't hate that. As starting off. I like the mix of youth with Deebo, who gives you a pretty solid floor.
Oh,
and
man.
It's a tough pick here too. My chat, it keeps messing up, so I got to go out and go back in. I don't know why Sleeper is screwing me here. I'm going to reach a little bit. This might be my first real reach, and maybe he's not the starter this year. But again, I don't like old running backs. To me, pre-draft, he was the best running back in the class. It might take a year, but I'm going Trey Benson.
Oof.
You son of a bitch.
Early for me.
I was hoping he would reach back to me. And that was another one of those times where I was like, as soon as you started saying this guy might not hit in year 1, I was like, Trey Benson, God damn it. Hey, Lee's taking another one of my favorites. All right. I like it, though. I think it's a great pick. It is building towards your future. Literally 1 year down the road, he could be, in my opinion, I think a back-end RB1. So I like it a lot. Mason, you are up next.
I want to take tight end 2 in Dynasty, but, I already got Kincaid, and I already got Addison, so I don't want to necessarily stack. So I am going to pass on Hawkinson as much as that hurts me to say that. I'm going to go a little early, I think. I'm going to take Keon Coleman. It is that stack with Kincaid, and, I was just saying I was a little worried with that, but I think maybe year 1, Keon Coleman doesn't necessarily have the best year. I think by week 10, 11 of this season, Keon Coleman could really be an alpha-type wide receiver, being one of the only true targets for Josh Allen. I mean, Curtis Samuel's there, Shakir's there. They are going to take a little bit away from him, and Kincaid is going to take away a little from him. But I think year 2, it is going to be just pretty much Coleman and Kincaid are going to be the 2 guys that Josh Allen is going to go for. I've honestly fallen in love with Keon Coleman. It could just be through the media and how great he's done through media. But
Yeah,
I've
he's
fallen
fun.
in love with the dude. I want to root for him so bad that I've been taking him in as many leagues as I can, just because he's one of those guys that in a couple years, if he proves to be that talent, everybody's going to love him.
All right,
I'd have
Kyle.
taken Rod McConkey there. Just saying.
I also would have went McConkey personally, but I was trying to keep the show moving. I will talk about McConkey for a decade. Kyle, what do you got here for the year 707?
I still like young receivers. I like Bryce Young at this value right here, but I'm gonna hold off because I already have two starting quarterbacks, and I'm gonna go with Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed to pair up with Jordan Love, have some
I like that.
long-term wide receivers.
That's a high upside pick. I like Jaden Reed a lot. I do think that he is a more well-rounded wide receiver than both Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. So I really do like that. I think his role will expand. Worries me a little bit that he was targeted so much around the line of scrimmage. Not a very deep A dot, but I think that the athletic ability is there, and they clearly prioritized him around the goal line, which is going to make a world of difference. I'm going to take the guy that Mason didn't give me, TJ Hawkinson. Mason, I just want to know how you feel right now, just like in your bones.
I mean, I love TJ. Like I was saying, I would have taken him, but I already had Kincaid, and I just didn't want to spend two early picks on tight ends. I'm pretty off the tight end position usually, so taking too early for me is never my strategy,
For
especially
sure.
when we said this isn't a tight end premium league. I'm not going to do that. But man,
There's no way TJ is tight end 2. There's just no way he's tight end
this
2.
year, no, because he's
Not
going to
this
be
year
injured
or
for a
in the
while.
future either. The tight ends are too loaded. Give me Laporta, give me McBride, give me Kincaid, which is your guy there. I'm taking Andrews over Hawkinson, if given that choice as well.
But I think Hawkinson's going to be a top 5, not this year because injury, but I think the next 3-4 years he's going to be a top 5 tight end, and that enough is what when I'm thinking he's going to be top 5. That puts me as him as number 2. Obviously, there's going to be some guys that do better, but if you have a guy who's consistently putting up top 5 numbers for his position, yeah, I'll put him as my number 2.
That's fair. I don't think he's. I think some of his big year last year was with Jefferson hurt, with the new quarterback situation. I think he's clearly going to be the third option when he gets back behind Addison as well. I mean, he's still got a lot of upside for a 26-year-old tight end, but I think he's very much at the 5-6 spot as far as tight ends in Dynasty go.
All right, so I take TJ Hawkinson at the 710. I got the wrap around here. 803, I go with Christian Kirk. I have Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback too. It's a nice little stack there. I do think that he's going to be peppered with targets, especially as you have a rookie in Brian Thomas Jr. that is like really a primarily a downfield threat for LSU in his time there. I don't remember the exact stat, but he had a ridiculous percentage of his production coming off the 9 round. Trevor Lawrence did well on deep throws last year. However, I don't see him continuing that trend where he's only taking deep shots and having great success at it. I feel like Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk are the only intermediate threats there. And I think that Christian Kirk's going to see about 130 to 140 targets at the bare minimum this year. That's my opinion. He's on the team for another 2. Like after this season, he'll have one more year with the Jaguars before his contract runs up. I'll take that in my wide receiver 4 behind Marvin Harrison Jr., Devonta Smith, and Tank Dell. So got a good mix of youth and a guy that's a little bit older, 27 years old, in Christian Kirk. Let's move on, though. We got Kyle's 8th round pick. The man has gone quarterback and wide receiver heavy. This is what Dynasty players talk about nonstop. People don't want the running backs. You can't predict them. Let's take the value at the position, and he stood up to the test. So I'm interested to see, though, is the first running back going to be drafted on your team here in the 8th round, Kyle?
I believe so. Looking at the available running backs, and
It's bleak. It's bleak.
I like Montgomery the most, so I'm gonna go with David Montgomery. Out of it was him, Najee Harris, and maybe somebody went right before Alvin Kamara was available, and I think I like Montgomery's situation in Detroit, getting goal line work and being there probably for the next couple of years.
I like the pick. I like Montgomery. I think he's tied for two seasons of productivity. I mean, Gibbs is obviously going to take more and more of the role, but they're a run-first team. People forget that because it is such an explosive offense with Laporta and Amon-Ra. So, yeah, I think he's going to have plenty of touchdown opportunity over the next 2 years.
When he was healthy.
Yes, this year and one more year under contract, $6 million per year. I do think that Gibbs' roles increase, but I do think that Montgomery's continues to get the goal line work, and that's all you really need right now. You know, we're in the 8th round of a dynasty startup. Why not take the guy that's going to give you that spike week just based on the touchdowns? All right, Mason. Ooh, I did not see that running back still on the board. Still wouldn't have taken him over the wide receiver I took, but interested to see if you're seeing the same thing here, Mason. What do you got?
We got some threats in our private chat. Just letting that out there. There have been threats made, and they were by me.
I'm gonna take with my heart and soul. My guy, give me Bakeman. Man. Baker.
I feel like it deserves like the day man, you know.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started on It's Always Sunny. Love that shit.
Fake man.
I could write a song on that, man. I knew you were going to take Terry. Once you said that in chat, Lee, I was thinking of taking Terry just to, piss you off. But
I almost took Terry at the 8-3. So if he makes it all the way to the 8-10, congratulations on getting this deal. And you got the Jaden Daniels stack. It makes too much sense for Lee's team. Lee, I'm sure you're refreshing your sleeper app right now. So
every time it makes me go out and come back in. Sleeper, if you're listening, if there's an associate of Sleeper, please get your mock drafts fixed. I have 400 megabytes of internet speed. It's not my internet.
One of you 107 listeners better be a sleeper.
Yeah.
Top tier sleeper dog.
You don't got to be top tier. You can be an intern. Just tell your boss, come on, help me out.
Get it done.
Like, obviously, Terry McLaurin, I feel like he's one of the most underrated receivers in the league. He's had an atrocious quarterback situation. If Jaden Daniels works out, I really look for him to be unlocked this year. He's going to be there for a few more years. There's very little target competition. I could see him, and this could be the homer in me, but I could definitely see him being a wide receiver one, a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy this season if everything goes right with Jaden Daniels.
All right. You're back up on the clock. Is the app fixed itself yet?
Yeah, I went out. I'm back in. And this is a little bit of a tougher pick. Aaron Jones does not tip. I've told you guys that, so I can't pick Aaron Jones. And he's too old a running back for me at this point anyway. You should tip Aaron Jones. Let's see. No, can't take him. Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't like getting completely left out at tight end, but I don't love the options at tight end here. I don't love the running back options either. So I think I'm just going to take a value pick. It's a tough one here. I know the clock's ticking. I feel the minutes clicking by. Oh God. All these players
clock would be up in a normal draft. Should we just auto draft him, guys?
Just take
Oh
Dotson.
no.
Mason?
I almost slipped up for our radio broadcast. I am messing around, is what I was definitely going to say there. So, Lee, you are. There we go. Amari Cooper. I think
Yeah,
that is
good
a
pick.
great pick, especially
Great
for
pick.
what you were talking about earlier. World could end tomorrow. If you're trying to
Yeah.
win your fantasy league right now, why not grab Amari Cooper in the 9th round? He's not so old that he's going to fall off a cliff tomorrow. He's going to get it done as the wide receiver 1 for the Browns. Even though Deshaun Watson is not a reliable quarterback, he has shown the ability to support his top wide receiver, and Amari Cooper will get it done. So I do like that pick a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, I went just experimenting, went 3 quarterbacks, and ended up with Nico, DK, Debo, Terry McLaurin, and Amari Cooper as my wide receiver room. Obviously, we need to get younger, but I like my wide receiver room for year 1.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we said it earlier, but again, this 3 wide receiver, 3 flex league. Everything else is pretty standard. So it like you have 6 wide receivers that you can throw in onto your team. Might as well take some of these older wide receivers that are going to get you some production in year 1 and 2. Take the shot at the title. You can trade what's working for you for, draft picks in the future. Make it happen. Mason is up with the 9-4, though. Unless you already know the pick, I'm going to recap it real quick. But you know your pick?
Yeah,
right.
I was
Do your
debating
pick.
going RB here, but I'm gonna take a wide receiver that I think I'm a little higher on than a lot of guys. I'm gonna take Xavier Leggett.
League, I heard.
There was a lot of rumors that before the draft that this is who Carolina really wanted. They see a lot in him. They're obviously, when you have reports coming out like that, it's a guy that you can see that they're gonna want to use. They even traded up. It was only one pick, right?
1 pick, yeah. From
Yeah, but
201 to 132.
they still traded up to make sure they got their guy. I just think that with that, with a lot of confidence from the front office in a guy that he is going to get used. Deontay Johnson is there. Adam Thielen's there, which Adam Thielen is really could be on the last year of his career of doing anything. Deontay, we know he's not necessarily, he's a consistent guy, but he's not that X factor guy. I have a lot more belief in the Panthers than the general consensus does. So I think Bryce Young's going to have a big year, and not elite year, but way better year than last year. And I just think Leggett after week 3 or 4 could really be the wide receiver 1 on a team that throws up 250 to 300 passing yards a game.
All right. Before anyone says anything, Kyle, me and you are going to make our picks. We're not going to say anything after our picks. And I'm going to recap both of our teams so we can make it in time for the Atlanta radio broadcast. He goes Godwin with the 9-8. I'm going Aaron Jones, getting another running back on our team. So on our team through 9 rounds, my quarterbacks are Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence. I have my wide receivers as Marvin Harrison Jr., Devonta Smith, Hank Dell, and Christian Kirk. My running backs are Jonathan Brooks, Aaron Jones, and then my tight ends are TJ Hawkinson so far. Right now, Kyle has Burrow and Love with the first 2 picks, goes on a 5 wide receiver run, which I love. London, Pittman, Flowers, Worthy, Reed, all young, all talented, all have opportunity in front of them. His running back is Montgomery, and tight end is George Kittle. Fantastic value at the 9-7. Mason's got CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield as his top 3 quarterbacks. He's got Nakua, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, and Xavier Leggett, according to his own pronunciation. Then James Cook as his running back and Dalton Kincaid at tight end. Lee goes risky business. First 3 picks, Hurts, Murray, Jaden Daniels. Then he's got Nico Collins, Metcalf, Samuel, Harry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, and also goes one running back so far with Trey Benson. Just capped it off before the 1 hour mark. If you're out there in Atlanta, have a great week. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you want to see more, please join us on the YouTube. We're going to go at least a couple more rounds deep, talk through some more picks. If you want more of a deep dive on what we've done so far, please join us there. All right.
Go Dogs.
Goddamn. Mason, I hit you up, and now we're on YouTube. I hit you up in the fucking chat, bro. You're like, I'm going to take my time talking about this Xavier Liga. Did you guys hear him pronounce his own name? It's Xavier Liga.
No, I
I
didn't
can't
say
hear him
that.
pronounce
You know,
anything.
I'm gonna talk because I want to fucking talk. All right.
It's that Creole.
Good. Then you can host the show like you did last week, and then you can message me afterwards going, that wasn't as much fun. I'd rather not do that. Please make it back.
So I would also like to add,
Yeah, I
then,
missed
you know,
it, man.
to change her off, and we're on YouTube. Fuck you, Mason.
Yeah.
Fuck you,
Let's
Lee.
go. Fuck you, Mason. I'm gonna hit this goddamn weed pen, drink my beer, and I'm actually on the clock. I'm gonna make my pick first, and then I'm gonna let Kyle do his goddamn thing over there. Let's see.
My
So
pick.
while you're making that pick, I just want to point out none of us picked more than one running back, unless I missed something.
I did. I took two, but I got Jonathan Brooks and Aaron Jones, so it's gonna be
Okay.
one running back for the first 4 weeks at least.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of value left here at running back, and
For sure.
obviously, I don't hate if a value falls to me, but I'm never going to reach for a running back early in a startup. Shelf life.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is common theory and knowledge, but the running back shelf life is so finite, and it flips so quickly that to me, that's going to be your easiest place to replace. Whether it be just some pop-up guys or, you know, rookies. We know how well rookie running backs do. You know, to me, the stud receivers and quarterbacks are really, and again, I know this is the common theory, but that's how you build a long-term winner for your dynasty team.
100%. 100%. Especially when there's this many flex positions available. You know, like you want to be able to fill up on those wide receivers that you know are more than likely than running backs to stay healthy throughout the season, more likely to continue on the production that they've had and stay with their teams.
Nobody gets a second contract hardly. You know, that's a big thing.
That's the thing too. Like if a wide receiver is good, they are expected to get a big fat second contract.
Absolutely.
If a running back is great, then maybe they get a second contract for a shorter amount of time. It's just not in the cards for them. I doubt one of our 110 listeners so far on this live stream has been a mother. If you are, don't let your kid become a running back. Go train them for literally any other position in the NFL, and you'll be set.
Yeah.
All right, so I am going to take another running back here. Brian Robinson, he is one of the youngest guys on the board here. After Austin Eckler is gone next season, Brian Robinson will be on the 4th year of his rookie contract. I think he's surprisingly, in my opinion, shown more in the passing game than I expected him to do at 6'1", 228 pounds. Last year, he had 36 receptions off of his 43 targets. Great reception rate, 368 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air. That's amazing. That brought his total yards above 1,000. I think that Austin Eckler being added to the team is scaring people away. And yes, maybe for 1 year, Brian Robinson loses some of that passing work. But I think a young running back on a team that has a ton of upside with Jaden Daniels, you know, unproven, a little scary, but I see the upside there. And I think the upside is more than likely to hit than the downside for Jaden Daniels. So, Brian Robinson.
I love it.
Kyle?
Love it.
You like? I thought you might, Lee. I had an inclination there. Kyle, we never asked you. Kyle, what's your favorite team?
Oh man, my team. Oh,
Yeah.
the NFL team, the Panthers.
Yes, your favorite.
The Panthers.
I like my. I can't
I'm
even
going-
think of a funny fantasy name for a team here. go ahead, Kyle.
I'll think of one after I get some more players on my roster.
All right.
Hey, Heather.
Teaser. You're already
Oh,
a
that's
pro.
my wife.
Hello, wife.
She said she was out of the kitchen for too long. Needed to get something to eat or drink.
We have an extra guest spot coming up. Bring in Kyle's wife for the next pick.
Yeah, Heather's in here.
Yeah, Heather.
She said that she would have gone Hollywood Brown. No, she wouldn't have. But just when did he change his name officially to Hollywood? That's the first
Bro,
time
I
I've seen
almost-
it in these drafts is Hollywood.
Sleeper
Yeah.
did that like 2 weeks ago, or
Yeah,
a week
nice.
or 2 ago, something
Maybe,
like that.
yeah, maybe Mason knows better than I do even, but like I did I do a lot of bullshit across all of these different fucking platforms. I noticed Hollywood 2 days ago. And I almost tweeted it out or fucking X'd it out, whatever the hell you call that shit
Twix.
now.
Twix. I like Twix.
Oh, Kyle.
Twix.
Kyle, I like that. We twixed it out, but I was like, this is too small and minute to fucking talk to the people about. I like that somebody else recognized it though, because did he really change his legal name to Hollywood?
Must
I would
have.
drop him a couple spots in my rankings because of that. A
You
lot.
chosen Anderson.
Yeah, is that? And tell me
Yeah.
you did not like. All right, buddy, you are unchosen. You're gone.
But then it was kind of confusion. Did he change his name or was it his last name? Was
Confusion
he Robbie
Anderson.
Chosen or Chosen Anderson?
I think
it's
you're
just
onto
Chosen.
something.
I think
too.
he went with a
It could
one-word
be
name.
Confusion
There you
Anderson.
go. Make it
I
easy.
think Confusion Anderson's the next name. I think he's very confused with his own identity. So I think we're onto something here. All right, Kyle, what you got here?
On the clock.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at some. I'm gonna go value right here. I don't see a running back I like. These are older quarterbacks, a couple of decent running backs, but I'm gonna go with Penix right here. Take my shot on.
Dude, yeah. No, so
future
like
quarterback.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
No problem.
So I was just gonna say I agree that he is a value in dynasty drafts. All of us are looking at the Kirk Cousins contract. All of us are thinking how crazy the Falcons are for drafting a quarterback that early while you just gave a bag to a 34-year-old veteran in the league.
Coming off a torn Achilles.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like, he is 34 years old right now. He is coming off the Achilles. I think maybe it's coming a little bit earlier than we expect. And getting Penix in the 10th round when it was a first round, like in the NFL draft, rated quarterback is insane value and could have really high upside after 1-2 years, even if the Falcons need that contract.
I was kind of thinking that same thing, Dan, with Will Levis was available, but I preferred Penix with the upside. We kind of seen Will Levis in year one. He still has potential to be great, but Penix had the higher draft capital. Seems like, if I remember correct, was Levis the late first round pick or second round pick last year?
He was the very first pick of the second round. Yeah, Titans traded up to get him, I believe.
That's right.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying here. And on top, like, if you did not get two quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds, you got Burrow and Love, both surrounded by talent, both pretty young, pretty darn young. And then, like, you have the time to be able to wait on Penix. You could probably grab a guy like Gardner Minshew in like the 16th round in case you need that like buy quarterback, you know, for this year. But after that, maybe 2 years down the line at most, you got a potential, you know, like a top 15 quarterback, I would say, once he finally gets starts.
Yeah, I think this is the cheapest you'd be able to get a first round quarterback in a startup.
Probably ever. Yeah. Like legit. All right, Mason, what you got here?
Lola.
Well, I really need running back, but there's no one here I necessarily love. It is going to leave me super weak since I only have one running back.
Hold on, let me see if I can guess who you're talking about.
You know what? Since my team's young, I'm going to take Nick Chubb. Obviously he might miss some time, but with my team being young, I'm not necessarily built for the first year to be that explosive team. If I have to trade Nick Chubb, around week 10 when he comes back and gets if he is back to form and I do get to trade him for a high value pick or something like that, that's more what I'm looking for with that pick. If not, if my team really is contending, I think Chubb will be around playoff time for fantasy. I think he will be a very solid player, so I'll take him there.
Chubb is the only running back or the only player ever that I don't have one jersey of, but I have two jerseys of. I love that man. I think if anybody can come back from that gruesome injury that he had, it's him. He has the work ethic. He just shuts up, does his job, and is incredible at it. So I think that he could return from the injury maybe by, like you're saying, week 8, week 10.
I hate that pick, Mason. Hate it so much.
I'm not super happy with it, but
Sorry,
I think you only hate. Would you have taken him there? Is that why you hate it?
No, I would not. I can't. After the second gruesome injury at his age, but I am going to make
the first one came in college.
Still, it's infinitely harder to recover a second time than a first.
Have you had any injuries?
I mean, I did hurt my back, and I got off the couch kind of quick this morning, and it was iffy. But
you know what? Now I get it. It's like based off experience.
Experience,
I got off the couch quick. Nick Chubb could mess up this knee at any moment.
The law of averages. It was the same knee, correct? It was the same knee that he hurt in college, right?
Yeah. I it's just for me, it's like 7 years removed. So at 8, maybe even 8 years removed.
Still,
I'm not too worried about it.
I mean, I can't think it's as easy to recover a second time as the first, even with the years in between. And probably more importantly is the age factor. He was already getting to that age cliff anyway. And then you add that injury. That's just I just can't see. I can't see drafting him at all. I mean, this is our 10th round pick.
Yeah.
I think there's other guys I'd rather have. I'm going to make an interesting move here. And I know I just talked some junk about old running backs, but I want to guarantee myself a starter for this season. And I'm going to look to fill my RB2 hole maybe a little later, but I'm going to go ahead and stack running backs, and I'm going to take James Conner here.
Fill that hole, Lee.
Yes, sir.
YouTube after hours. All right. James Conner, Trey Benson with your 2 top running backs. I do think that it will work out for your year 1. I think it's going to be worse than Nick Chubb by year 2.
I think by year 2, Nick Chubb is doing commentating somewhere.
You think? All right, what the fuck, guys? Did you not see Nick Chubb for every other year of his life? Like he's one of the guys that is like Derrick Henry that will continue on producing at a high level beyond his 30s. And I'm not going to say that about pretty much any other running back other than Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb that's in the league right now. Maybe Christian McCaffrey. Insane in a different way. But yeah, just those boys are big as hell. They're so strong, contact balance. Literally everything outside of agility is there. And I think that I think Nick Chubb is a better running back in 2025 than James Conner is.
Could happen.
It could happen. I mean, Conner was really a pick for the first season. And I think
Right.
Trey Benson's definitely a better running back in 25 than Nick Chubb. And here, I'm going to go ahead and stay with filling my running back room. This is kind of a tough pick for me, but I'm going to go with youth again. I'm going to take Keandre Miller, who is going to be the starter by 25 in the Saints. And he's going to get a lot of work this year. Kamara, again, age cliff. There's not a ton left in the tank for Kamara.
Just really quick, just because I can't pass it. Lee, what did you say his first name was?
Keandre?
Lee, come on now.
You're better than this, Lee.
Kendra.
Andre.
Hey, I heard him pronounce it Keandre.
Dude, it's
Where
fine.
is the
I will mispronounce 100 names from here on out, but I just don't know where you're seeing the A.
All right.
It's silent, motherfucker.
It's silent. It's silent and not even in the name. But if you look real hard, it's Keandre.
It's French, okay?
Or
It's
if
French.
you're from the South.
Right here, I'm going to take a guy I'm super high up on, Chase Brown. I mean, I think
Yes.
I honestly think Zach Moss could have better weeks in the start of the season.
He
But I
will.
really do like Chase Brown's skill set. I think that he could honestly evolve into, really the true elite running back one on that team, which, it is a high scoring team when Burrow is healthy. So I just think there's the risk of where you're drafting Chase Brown at is totally worth it. I don't think there's, at this round, you're taking it. It's kind of, obviously there's some to it, but it's kind of dart throws when you start getting to this point. And I just think the upside of what you can get out of Chase Brown at this spot is insane.
I hear what you're saying. I will go with Kyle's pick personally right now. When they're in the same round, same ADP, just like this, Kyle ended up going Zach Moss here. I think we already saw it when he replaced Jonathan Taylor last year. The guy had a lot of volume for the time that he played. Last season alone, he had 183 attempts, ended up getting 794 yards for 4.3 yards per carry. A lot of that was with a backup quarterback at helm. And even though Gardner Minshew, he performed pretty admirably, obviously he's a backup quarterback, for the most part. I don't think anyone lists him in the top 32 picks. I think that AR would have had the team moving a lot more. And even though he might have vultured some touchdowns, Zach Moss last year only had 5 on the ground. So I don't know how many of those 5 he would have vultured. I think that right now, Zach Moss is the guy that is going to get the bulk of the carries. I did literally just project all of the Bengals players' stats for this year on my lunch break. I finished that off in the last hour of my lunch break here. So maybe I'm biased because I just saw what I think Zach Moss has the potential to be, but also limited expectations. And even with the limited expectations, he is finishing pretty high in my rankings right now. All right. Anybody else have something to say about Zach Moss versus Chase Brown?
Chase Brown's going to be one of those people that, like Jacoby Myers, that next year, when we're after the season, you guys are going to be like, oh, Mason, you were so right about Chase Brown. That's all I got to say.
I think Chase Brown's insanely athletic, and he is like a Tony Pollard to the Ezekiel Elliott role right now. And maybe he'll get the opportunity in the future, but maybe also when he's actually given that amount of volume, he's not going to have the same yards per carry and these like pretty looking stats that he might get as the RB2 in that system.
I would take Zach Moss. I mean, I'm not going to get too far into it. I didn't see enough from Chase Brown. There were a couple of big plays. Mason sucks and fuck him. But Zach Moss showed me so much more last year. Obviously, long term, you may get more out of Chase Brown. But I think especially for this season, Zach Moss is the number one in Cincinnati in an offense where he's going to get a ton of goal line work, We saw what Joe Mixon, who again, another guy reaching that age cliff, had definitely lost a step. Zach Moss looked better than he has in his entire career last year when he got the ball and really got the workload. He's a guy that I'm heavily targeting in redraft leagues this year.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I loved the so casual slip of "fuck you, Mason" right in the middle of that mix. That had me dying.
Fuck you.
All
Lee.
right. that was amazing. All right. So I am going to continue to mix in the young with the old here. My running backs right now, and I'll recap. You know what? I'll save the recap for afterwards. I'm going to take Raheem Mostert right now in the 11th. This is literally a 1-year buy, and it's buying high off that last year. But right now, it's Devon Achane, who is pretty injury prone for his size. He's incredible. However, we just saw Mostert get fed. He got the most touchdowns in his career. So, if you go off of Mostert's 209 rushing attempts last year and 18 rushing touchdowns for 1,000 yards, this is insane numbers. If you take that and maybe give him 75% of it, 3/4 of what he got last year, because they didn't bring in anything crazy. Jalen Wright through the draft, impressive talent, third running back on the chart. He has the same skill set as Achane. I don't think he's going to eat into Mostert's work at the goal line because Wright is not a goal line back. So let's say Mostert gets 10 touchdowns. I will take him 100% as my RB4 on this team. I think that he is, if you know you're drafting a win now team, this is the guy you can go for late in rounds that will really put your team over the top, especially if it's a league like this where you can go 6 wide receivers before you draft a running back. Go and get Mostert to just put that win now team over the top. All right, boys. It's been hour 22 minutes. Do we want to cap it here at 11 rounds, or do we want to finish off the 12th?
Either way works for me.
Well, my mic was muted, but let's finish off this round and then call it. That'll put us at like an hour 30. So
your mic works better when it's muted, Mason.
This is After Hours YouTube. If you actually made it from the Atlanta video broadcast, this is why you came here. I like this. Leland. More of this, Mason. Continue to fire back. I'm gonna make my next pick in the outside of this crossfire here, just chilling. And I'm going to continue the running back route. Devin Singletary. Aaron Jones is injury prone. Jonathan Brooks is starting off his career off an ACL injury. Mostert, not a shining light for injury. Brian Robinson's been not injury prone, but he did get shot. I pray that don't happen to Brian Robinson again. Maybe he'll come out with a bigger hat next time if he gets shot a second time. But we got Devin Singletary at the 12th pick. Don't see him getting less than 200 carries there in New York this season.
I don't hate it, and especially at this point, I feel like you do have a guaranteed workload. I mean, Tyrone Tracy is going to be your biggest threat, and we do know some of the rookies can come out of nowhere. The only thing I'll say is there's a decent possibility that's the 32nd offense in the NFL this season. So touchdown opportunity is going to be a problem.
I would say 70% or above for sure. No one's worse on paper. It's Neighbors and nobody else.
Yeah. Daniel Jones is awful.
Yeah, right. Even the guy dishing it out is awful. It'll be fun to see how well Saquon does behind a competent offense, and then how terrible the Giants do as a whole without Saquon.
Brian Daboll is going to be the hottest offensive coordinator candidate in the league this coming off season.
Big turnaround.
That would be interesting because I actually like Daboll. But
I do. He seems like he may be one of those guys that's just better as a coordinator than a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't had a lot to work with either. I mean, honestly.
All
Who's
right,
the
so
manager for the
right
Giants?
here with my
Who's
12th
who?
pick.
The manager. Who's the manager in New York?
Is it Dave Gettleman? Or is he
I think so. I think he still is.
Yeah, Dave Gettleman.
Former
He's all
Panther
Yeah.
GM.
All right. Well, with my pick here, I'm really looking at who would Lee take?
He would take whatever player that said "fuck you, Mason."
You know what? I'm gonna take the senator then because fuck you, Ben Sinnott.
I like it. This shit talking got him to take Lee's pick potentially. You do not have a tight end still, which is impressive at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly why I took Ben Sinnott.
I like it, man. I like it.
Because fuck you, Lee.
I was not going to take Ben Sinnott here. I do like him, but there's tight ends. I'll be looking to get a little more immediate contributor at tight end, and I see a couple of guys that would be there in the next round for me. So I'm not going to take a tight end either. I'm really between two guys, and I think just with the way my team is laid out, and again, we could all be dead in a year, so I want to win this season. I'm going to take Gus Edwards and shore up my running back room.
I don't know if you heard me like this.
Pick. What a terrible pick. Wow.
I don't know how that's a terrible pick, but
He's better than
because
Chase
he's
Brown
different.
this year, guaranteed.
again, I think it's a guy that gets probably at least 180 carries on the ground. I see nothing less than 10 to 12 carries per game.
It's not a terrible pick, but Lee took him, so it's a terrible
But there you go. Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right. So to cap off everything we got here, and if you're on YouTube, you can see it all. Lee, his quarterbacks are Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels. Wide receivers are Nico Collins, DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Amari Cooper. Running backs are Trey Benson, James Conner, Kendre Miller, and Gus Edwards. No tight end drafted on that team. We got Mason with quarterbacks at CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy. I almost called him your BCB nickname. Baker Mayfield, Puka Nacua, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, and Xavier Legette are the 4 wide receivers there. At running back, he's got James Cook, Nick Chubb, Chase Brown, and the tight end is Ben Sinnott. For Kyle's team, we have Joe Burrow and Jordan Love as the top 2 quarterbacks, with Michael Penix as the third. Drake London, Michael Pittman, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, Jaden Reed, and Roman Wilson as his wide receivers. Ton of youth there. And then he's got David Montgomery and Zach Moss as the 2 running backs, with George Kittle as his tight end. For my team here, we got Lamar Jackson and Trevor Lawrence, my 2 QBs. Marvin Harrison Jr., Devonta Smith, Tank Dell, and Christian Kirk as my wide receivers. And then Jonathan Brooks, Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson Jr., Raheem Mostert, and Devin Singletary as the running backs. TJ Hawkinson as my tight end. So that's our teams. This was hard. I got drunk and high for the last tail end of this bit here. And I you know what? I got what I deserve. Y'all should be laughing, Mason.
I'm just laughing at what Lee put up at the bottom.
What'd you say?
Lee, with the banner that Lee put up at the bottom.
Oh my God. I feel like this is becoming hot out of nowhere. There is never any beef at all. And as soon as y'all have a couple drafts together, fuck Mason, fuck Lee. I'm taking all of his players. We have to put you 2 back-to-back in our draft now. Everything else can be randomized, but I feel like y'all got to be back-to-back just for this beef.
Yeah. So I can snipe his bitch ass.
Hey, one more time for the road.
Hey, cheers
If
to
you guys
that.
don't see a kicker.
Oh shit! Both of my drinks are dry. So, cheers. Fuck you, Mason. Snipe Lee's bitch ass.
Here's the match.
Andre, both of you.
First part.
Fuck you
Part.
both. Kyle, you've been great though.
Stay hydrated. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Kyle's the
Appreciate you
champion.
joining
That's
us,
all I have to say about that. But fuck you both. Everybody else, have a great week. I'm gonna try
Hey,
to
guys.
end the podcast.
Real quick,
And-
we've got a real draft coming up. We're not sure if we're going to do it all live or do a little bit live, or we're just going to be talking about it. But we do have a show league coming up. I'm going to destroy Mason, as everybody who listens knows. But we appreciate you guys and look forward to seeing you next week. Season will be starting before you know it.
Thank you for being a professional, Lee. I'm gonna go get
Always.
drunk. Playoffs.